Okay, hello everybody. It is Thursday, March 28th in the year beyond Thunderdome 2013. This is News and Views from the Nefarium with Joseph P. Farrell, take two. Many of you commented, a couple of you anyway, that the sound wasn't any good on the previous recording, so I'm going to try again because I listened to it, and you're right, my continuing computer woes, and I suspect a little bit of internet problems because I did read an article, I haven't commented on it, that was posted by CNN, that internet users around the world have been experiencing some very, very slow internet problems, and apparently this has been due in part to some hacking of some Dutch companies. But in any case, I want to preface my news and views today with a couple of announcements, and one is rather sad. The other one is concerning George Ann Hughes. My announcement concerning the website is that we are approaching 3 million viewers since the makeover a couple years ago. Right now we stand at about 2,975,000. So I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for your support, for your comments, for all the articles that you send me now. Most of my time is now spent looking at what you send me, and I really do appreciate that. And it's also interesting to see what you're tracking, because many of you are now tracking the BRICS nations as well, and that's what I want to talk about today. My second announcement does concern George Ann Hughes. She's told me that she's been having a few problems, post-surgery problems, with her eyes. She has talked to her doctor. It may be necessary for her to have another surgery. She goes back next month to check and make sure. If she does, we'll probably need to help her out, raise some funds so that she can have that. She doesn't make a lot of money off of her website. In fact, it's entirely donation supported, and quite frankly, I know the statistics on her website. She gets a lot more hits than she gets donations. So we may need to help her out with that, but I'll keep you updated on what's going on with her eyes. Now, as promised, the BRICS nations are in the news again. Right now they're having, this coming weekend, and have been having a summit in Durban, South Africa. The BRICSA nations, as I'm now calling them, because South Africa has formally, more or less, aligned itself with Brazil, Russia, India, and China, the other major BRICS nations. Now, the first article is something that intrigues me in the context of something I reported, I think it was almost a year ago now, about a development between Brazil and China that they had signed a bilateral agreement for cooperation in space matters. And I predicted then that you would see more of these types of arrangements being worked out among the BRICS nations in the future, and sure enough, SouthAfricaInfo.com is reporting the following article: South Africa and Russia sign a satellite pact. Now, the essence of this agreement is that the Russian space agency Roscosmos and the South African National Space Agency SANSA have signed an agreement to link the Russian satellite Radio Astron, which has a radio telescope on board, with various facilities on planet Earth to create a huge interferometer, in other words, a radio telescope that is almost as wide as the distance between the Earth and the Moon. So this, in other words, gives them a tremendous radio telescope capability. And this, incidentally, is being done with the European Space Agency and some institutions in the United States and Australia. But the important thing here, I think, that we need to take away from this is this growing cooperation among the BRICS nations, and to a certain extent with the European Space Agency. I think you're going to see more of this as this emerging alliance, or rather geopolitical financial bloc, and we'll get to the finance part of it in a moment, continues to solidify. I think you're going to see more of these types of bilateral agreements, and I'll make a prediction that some of these agreements are probably going to include technology transfers. And I'm also going to make the statement, crawling out on a limb a little bit here and speculating, that some of these space agreements already in place, such as between China and Brazil, or perhaps this most recent one between Russia and South Africa, may include some secret protocols. And I suspect the reason for this emerging space cooperation and the secret protocols is the American announced intention to dominate space, both in terms of civilian and normal activity and in terms of the militarization of space. I think this is the public face of what may be a very quiet and covert BRICSA response to that attempted militarization. And I think you're going to see more of this taking place in the future. Now, turning to the other side of this coin, the other thing that these nations have been talking about in South Africa, and I have two articles here that I'm referencing in the statement that I'm putting out. One is by Bloomberg and one is by Al Jazeera, and it's very rare. In fact, I think this is the first time that I will ever refer to Al Jazeera on this website. And Bloomberg's perspective is very interesting. It's summed up in the headline of the article, "BRICS Nations Plan New Bank to Bypass World Bank and IMF, or the International Monetary Fund." And let me read you the opening paragraph of this, because you get the Western perspective on what's taking place. It says, quote, "The biggest emerging markets are uniting to tackle underdevelopment and currency volatility with plans to set up institutions that encroach on the roles of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund." All right, now, let's stop right there. Underdevelopment and currency volatility translate to me as increasing global suspicion and wariness of the US dollar as the reserve currency. That's exactly what it means. So in other words, this signal that they're going to set up a BRICS alternative to the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund is, I think, in a certain sense, fulfilling a prediction I made here, that you would see the BRICS nations begin to develop, and that would be precisely their own competition, direct competition, to the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, which are effectively, basically, shills for American foreign and financial policy, which are oftentimes linked, of course. All right. So in other words, this is a direct challenge to the Anglo-American financial oligarchical elite's supremacy and its assumptions that it would always be at the center of the world financial universe. In other words, that's revealed by the language "encroaching upon," as if they have some sacrosanct status by virtue of the Bretton Woods agreements in 1944. What's really happening is that that system is in the final phases of unraveling, and the BRICS nations see this, and I think they are attempting to mitigate the chaos that will occur when the dollar loses its reserve currency status. I've said before, and I'll say it again, that what's really propping that up right now is solely and purely American military muscle and the existence of NATO in Europe as the military wing of the European Union, holding all of that mess together. All right. But now I want to turn to Al Jazeera. All right, because this is a very interesting way that they put it. And again, it's all revealed in the opening sentence. It says, quote, "The BRICS grouping of emerging powers have reached a deal to establish a development bank that would rival Western-backed institutions." Now, that right there, that little indicator right there, to me says it all, that they are in fact thinking in the correct geopolitical terms, that the BRICS nations see themselves increasingly as the rivals, not merely states attempting to gain greater influence within the existing global system of finance. They now see themselves as rivals to the Western Anglo-American financial oligarchy. Now, there's one thing that the Al Jazeera article points out that's also very interesting, and it deserves some commentary, and that is that the BRICS nations are having some disagreement on where to locate this bank. And I submit to you that this is really a very important consideration, because a long time ago, as I've been talking and following the BRICSA story, I not only predicted that you would see them take this step to establish rivals, direct rivals to the World Bank and the IMF and so on, but that you would also see them set up rivals or competitors to international financial clearing, like the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Transfer, otherwise known as SWIFT, in Brussels, Belgium, and then CHIPS in this country. I think you're going to see them attempt to set up direct rivals as a part of this program. Now, where are they going to locate their rival or competitor to the World Bank? I submit that if they locate it in a typical Western sanctioned banking haven like Switzerland, that if they do that, what they're really attempting to do is use their muscle to gain further influence and clout within the existing system. Now, I don't think that that's likely, but that would be the way that that move should be translated. If, on the other hand, they attempt to set up their rival in an existing Asian haven or create one somewhere in Asia, then this would mean that, yes, we are dealing with a real, genuine statement. We are here as direct competitors to the Western financial oligarchs. We have this institution. We can beat their deals. And consistently, you'll recall I've made this comment a number of times on the website, consistently the Chinese have been able to beat the terms of the World Bank and IMF and offering to develop infrastructure of developing countries. So this is an important little story to watch, folks. I want you to be aware of it. Where they locate this bank, I don't expect that this disagreement is going to continue for long. The BRICS nations will move to resolve it as quickly as they can and to agree on a location for this bank. And I suspect that you're going to see that it will be in Asia. So we do have interesting things developing on the world stage financially. Look for more of these bilateral space agreements. Look for more news on the establishment of the BRICS rival to the World Bank and the IMF, and as a component of that, further along in the stage to setting up their rival system, look for rival clearing agencies and institutions like SWIFT and CHIPS. And I would even go so far as to look for them to set up rivals in the West. All right? So you're going to see a lot of this taking place now. I want to thank you for tuning in again and for all your support, your prayers, your donations, your memberships, your comments, the articles that you send. Please keep Georgianne in mind with her eyes, and I'll try and keep you updated on all of that. Thank you, everybody. God bless, and we'll see you on the flip side.